Prepare for takeoff, touchdown, Ben Gurion, strict search, make sure nobody enter with bombs blew. White flag for this birthright tour I'm on. Never mention 3 villages that the airport is on. Recent history buried, but it speaks through the sand. All Jews, law of return, I don't seem to understand. A land without a people, for people without a land. But see a man standing with a key and a deed in his hand. First stop, Museum of the Holocaust. Walking outside in the distance, saw ghosts throwing the Molotov. Houses burnt with kerosene. Mass graves couldn't bear the scene. Wasn't a pogrom, was the ruins of Deir Yassin. Second stop, shopping at the Kenyon Malha. Built it on the back of the town Al Malha. Wishing we could call its name, appalled by the change. And now a mall full of chains is all that remains. My Ima misses people, not places. Has she seen the towns with names in Arabic the Hebrew replaces? The policies is evil and racist, deceitful and heinous. You'll never be a peaceful state with legal displacement. Decolonize. Worldwide, listen. Locusts and buzzers circling, hover above the abandoned houses, shattered windows with the crooked shutters. Across the street is stuck the cookie cutter condominium. Line of Woodward is the prime meridian. You divide the city and in the hood, wonder why you pay 2 times the premium. They've been redlining the dark-skinned owners of homes where they loan with a shark's fin. Arson the property, probably for their insurance policy. It's a prophecy that's self-fulfilling. They claim to cure us of poverty, but it's serving removal of residents with urban renewal. The reverends are the realtors here to save and heal you. They even buy ugly houses, and it's memorabilia of a myth of a city that's a mystery. Auto industry's widow on the auction floor. They start to bid low on houses with hanging gutters and peeling shingles. It's purchased at a nervous pace in the cadence. I heard a wrecking ball hit a building that's mistaken for vacant. A sleeping city awakened by bulldozers, and the wool pulled over our eyes. It comes as no surprise why the rents are more. From the French to Ford to the Illiches, trying to pillage the village and milk it for all that it's worth. While they killing us, but we still got resilience against the locusts surrounding, suffocating our city and trying to choke us, ravaging the crops, making the situation hopeless. But we staying focused, never let the locusts approach us. So it go injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Say injustice anywhere is. Say injustice anywhere. Say injustice anywhere. It's a new dawn. Sun rising on the horizon. It's a new day. Every opportunity lies in the crisis. Giving this our all when we fight this. In it for the long haul, no compromises. Yeah. Make some noise for Lyris Hung. I want to give great gratitude for being here. Gratitude for everyone that canceled their performance last year, because if it wasn't for them and everyone that spoke from stage in support of boycott, divestment, and sanctions of Israel, then we wouldn't be in such a great evolved space in this conversation of actually getting to push it forward. And I want to give great gratitude for Creative Time and Omar Barghouti and Jeff Chang and the many others who were involved with that conversation, to be able to continue to engage that conversation, to be able to continue to go deep and to use failure and contradiction as an opportunity to really learn and grow, and to be able to notice the ways that sometimes even our greatest intentions often contradict and reinforce what we're working to counteract, and that when we illuminate those contradictions through those failures, we're able to actually be able to be in more alignment with our visions, be in more alignment with our lives and our humanity. So many thanks for that, and gratitude for all the work that's gone into that. And along those lines, this process has been about learning, for me, about more so what solidarity looks like. Even more, I learned a lot about that from the Palestinian movement for boycott and just for Palestinian decolonization of the land that they're on. and through the Boycott National Committee learned about this term co-resistance, which is about, I think applies to a lot of the conversations we've been having. What does it mean to come into community that you may not be originally from, and that you may be even benefiting from the targeting and violence against that group or the displacement of that group? And what does it mean to come in and enter, not just in a normalization or coexistence based on the current power imbalances and structures, but in a way that's in co-resistance to those structures, where we work in solidarity together. And so, yeah, clap it up for that, co-resistance. Yeah. And so, another thing that I'll share is this idea that creativity is inseparable from dignity. And the dignity comes from resistance and from building vision and from being able to start to be in our full humanity. And another quote by my mentor, Grace Lee Boggs, that drives much of my work is that, yes, Grace Lee Boggs, and she says, creativity is the key to unlock human liberation. And everything I'm gonna share with you today is based in that principle. Every city is a body and a living organism. Every neighborhood a vital organ, every block a cell. Every person in the city is an organelle. Gotta know your history if you want to fortune tell. Every city is a body and a living organism. Every neighborhood a vital organ, every block a cell. Every person in the city is an organelle. Gotta know your history if you want to fortune tell. In Detroit. Detroit is where I call home. Detroit is a complex living systems, like all of our communities. And Detroit is where a lot of the information, the knowledge, the wisdom that I'll share with you today comes from. It's not just from me, but something that's organically developed, inspired, and informed by all my communities doing great work every day. So I want to bring their spirit and presence onto the stage with me and in this room with me, and just to make that known that, you know, Detroit has always had a great legacy, not just of music and art, but also of movements, all the way from the Anishinaabe, the indigenous peoples of our land, all the way to, you know, the Underground Railroad. Detroit was the code name for Detroit was Midnight. It was the last stop before people crossed the Detroit River into Windsor. And all the way up to the labor movement, drum, the Black Power movement, the Civil Rights movement, and up to the great work happening in our community every day today. So I want to just acknowledge and give gratitude for all of that as well. All right. Hit it. So right now, the context of Detroit is great crisis, land grabs, school closings, displacement. Also, over 50% of Detroit's black population has been usurped of all democratic voting rights by state-appointed emergency managers. And in Detroit, our emergency manager was hired on from the largest bankruptcy firm in the country, who then declared bankruptcy. And that was actually footage from a protest against that bankruptcy this past week. And for the last decade, I've been working with Detroit Summer, which is a youth-led collective working for movement building and rebuilding our city from the ground up using creative action such as the Live Arts Media Project that you see here, which utilizes the skills that you're seeing in this video, where youth in Detroit Summer identify issues affecting them and their community. They generate questions and interview people in the community to get to the root and visions that are affecting and ideal solutions for those root issues that are facing them. And then they take those interviews and they take the information and also the inspiration and turn them into multimedia projects like this multimedia mural you're seeing created here. And then they create workshops and curriculum and campaigns, and we've shared them around the US as well as in Palestine, exchanging with youth groups out there. And that same process, the Live Arts Media Project type process, informs my work as a hip hop artist as well, and a media maker. And Emergence Media is a media and music company I co-founded in Detroit in 2007, through which I've released multiple music projects and films, including Locust. And Locust is a docu-music video myself and an artist named Finale made in 2007. We spent years conducting interviews with our community about displacement, the way they were impacted by it, and their vision for the city. And then we created a docu-music video that combined those interviews with our lyrics that I shared with you some of earlier, and then also highlighted footage of communities resisting. Like what you see here is communities doing what's called a foreclosure reversal, where someone is foreclosed from their home and we actually break in and move them right back in. And that same process is utilized In this other project, you see here, People Not Places, which use that interview and conversation process along with Abir Zanati and Suhail Nafar, two Palestinian hip-hop artists, to look at the denial of Palestinian right of return, one of the largest refugee populations in the world, and to look at those questions again with those voices front and center. So after years of doing that work, I became, a few years ago, the coordinator of the Detroit Future Youth Network, which is a network of 12 youth-led social justice and media organizations in Detroit. And along with my co-coordinator, Alea Harvey Quinn, we brought together groups that were an inch wide, mile deep, rather than a mile wide, inch deep. And we co-created this curriculum mixtape, which compiles youth-created media and workshops. And we're part of a larger network called Detroit Future, along with Detroit Future Media and Detroit Future Schools, as part of the Detroit Digital Justice Coalition, which is a whole decentralized network of groups in Detroit that are working to transform our city, that believe communication is a human right. And a little less than a year ago, the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation created a master plan that directly co-opted our name, Detroit Future. It is a nice name, I know. And so, we've been going back and forth with them about ownership of the name, and that's been a big question, who owns this name? But more importantly, we've been asking ourselves, who owns Detroit's future? And who owns the future of all of our communities? Because in Detroit, we're facing mad speculation, just mass speculation, people coming in and buying cash down from the bank, buildings and blocks. And one time a friend of mine asked some realtors from Japan what they plan to do with all the buildings they had bought. And they said, ask us in 30 years. And so that's a sort of speculative colonization that we're facing. And so we've been beginning to enact a speculative decolonization, because the speculation that we're using is rooted in a lot of speculative fiction. Like, we're very influenced by Octavia Butler's work, and my friend Adrienne Marie Brown's creating a piece called Octavia's Brood, and Afrofuturism, and those roots. And those allow us to start to imagine the hyperbolized versions of the dystopias and utopias and everything in between that are on the way from the current colonial efforts and settlement and gentrification efforts taking place in our communities. And then begin to imagine how we would counteract those then in the future, and how we would get there from now, and how do we apply those lessons and make room for decolonizing the speculation happening now, both through community land trusts, through resistance to the kind of speculation that's happening, and this applies worldwide, to settlement building around the world, but also to decolonizing who has permission to imagine and speculate the future, and who gets the resources and the tools to be able to realize those visions. So that thought process is what led to my newest collective, Complex Movements. And Complex Movements is a Detroit-based artist and activist collective composed of myself, Wesley Taylor, who's a visual artist and designer, Wajid, who's a filmmaker and music producer, and Carlos Garcia, who's a creative technologist and multimedia maker, as well as our producer, Sage Crump, who's here with me today. And we started this project in 2006 to explore the connection between complex science and social movements, inspired by a speech by my mentor, Grace Lee Biles, who co-founded Detroit Summer, who is a 98-year-old philosopher and activist in Detroit that was giving a speech about the connection between quantum physics and social movements. And that speech led me to nerdery. I went from hating science, thinking it was just eugenics and the military industrial complex, to my whole bookshelf is science books. And that led us down the road of geekery, of applying all those concepts and ideas to all these new mediums and learning how to solder and all types of other very geeky, fun stuff, that then took us to the first iteration and expression of these ideas in 2011 at the Detroit Science Center with a piece called Quantum Leap, where we experimented with generative live graphics and sculptural interactive objects that we perform with. And actually, shortly after this performance, the Science Center was foreclosed and then privatized. This is an interactive sculptural piece, music box, of a song called Apple Orchard that we make 100 multiples of. And we actually learned how to solder and created those and laser etched them. And then we took that same music box concept and turned it into an 8 feet tall music box that you see here, which is triggered by those pads by participants. And then we separated the performers, myself and Wajid, from the participants using this corrugated surface that we projector mapped on, so participants at no point saw the same thing. And then now in our newest piece, Beware the Dandelions, we've created a 400 square foot pod that's essentially the participants inside the music box. And now we've separated them from our performance in an adjacent space, and it's projected onto this pod that you're seeing in that animation. And so we tested this project last summer at the Charles H. Wright Museum for African American History in Detroit. We did over 20 performances for community feedback and tested things like generative graphics, like interactive games for participation where they can unlock the science fiction parable that we've been developing through music, through narrative. And then also, we were able to explore this idea of scale. And the idea of scale helps us think about a song, Apple Orchards, scaling all the way up to the size of this pod or even a building. The same way you can imagine small-scale projects for social justice and change scaling across to societal paradigm shifts. And all these ideas like scale, as well as what you see in the middle is the wavicle or a waving particle that is about us imagining uncertainty and the contradictions within our work, and also all those other emblems we can geek out about later of are all emblematic themes in Beware the Dandelions, which is a science fiction parable about urban farming in a post-apocalyptic future. And the way that that parable is told is inside this 400 square foot polyhedron pod that's surrounded by 180 degrees of projections, where inside participants actually unlock the story and embody the values of the piece. And so we were able to test them, and that's what you're seeing images from this past summer. And now we're continuing to develop with a whole advisory team of game developers, as well as sound designers and creative technologists. And we're doing all this to change the way people make change, reimagine revolution, reimagine social justice movements, and move beyond false binaries to examine all those contradictions in our work. We're doing this to highlight and support localized social justice movements in Detroit and all the communities that we travel to. We're doing to disrupt people's notion of what a hip-hop show is and can be, and we're doing this to push ourselves creatively in every way possible. And in the end, what we want to do is push as many layers of complexity as possible into one piece while still making it coherent and a space where we can embody and imagine those decolonized futures that we spoke about earlier. And so this piece ultimately is functioning in 3 modes. And those modes is the live experience performance that you just saw some footage of, as well as a community workshop space and curriculum that we plan to customize with each community we travel with this piece to. And last but not least, a standalone art exhibit installation that lives in that community and integrates parts of both of those modes. And so we plan to travel with this piece to cross-pollinate community stories of resistance and resilience and be able to actually imagine collectively what our decolonized future could be, and to really have a speculative decolonization process and then decolonize the speculative happening in our communities every day, that resistance and vision that we heard so many people speak about earlier, especially Rochelle from Right to the City. And I want to really just ask all of you to consider that as we're imagining our futures, how are we in true co-resistance with the communities most targeted, most impacted by these different issues, by the speculation. And so I want to share with y'all the theme song from Beware the Dandelions to close us out. And this cloth that's covering it up is actually one of the murals that Detroit Summer Youth created a couple years ago. So I want to bring them into the space as well. I'm going to ask if you're able, please stand up. This is hip hop after all. One of my favorite quotes by June Jordan is, "We are the ones we've been waiting for." So I need everyone to put your ones in the air. Stretch it out. Yeah, feels good. Take a deep breath together. Let's go. It's been a long couple days, a lot of wisdom, a lot of things to consider. And with your ones in the air, we are all the conductors. There's not one group or one organization or one person that's going to solve all this. It's going to take all of us interconnectedly being able to bring this together, this complex mess that we're in, to unravel it and create something anew. So you're all the conductors. When the music drops, you know what that means, right? Whatever your style is. You could do 2 hands too. I just got the mic in this one. wire fence electrified, gate control temperature, perfect the climate. Town surrounder pays $1 per drop of water. The trees thirst, quench and hydrate. Genetic engineer synthetically extend your years. Even bigger skeptics bite bait. Workers can't afford it if you eat when you get tortured. Apples marketed at high rates. Town creatures start to meet in secrecy. Plan a way to overthrow the groundskeepers. Figure how to interfere with frequency. The security surround sound speakers send a message out. Quick to be a sound, vandals of crime. Lands on the line proclaim, beware of the dandelion. Made an escape with ample time. Ayy, have you seen the apple orchard where the trees were trapped and tortured, but they keep the captives gorgeous, gorgeous? Have you seen the apple orchard where the trees were trapped and tortured, but they keep the captives gorgeous? Lyrics, let's go. Blankets the ground, hard in the freezer, no banquets around. Starving the season in bushels and pounds. Harvest the region, no garden for eating. They garden them as trees and it tastes even once with the rotten skin. Peeling with apple-sized cotton and gin. Plop them in, a gold-plated box will be so weighted Stockton. And no lady drops, hasn't eaten in months. Malnourished, groundskeeper throws her right out of the fortress. Lands on the snow and it's melting beneath her. All of it glows with the light of her features. First sign of spring, yellow and green. Whispers to one, tells her the dream. Her last dying wish, last living breath, means that we're all of ourselves in the genes. Ayy, have you seen the apple orchards where the trees were trapped and tortured? Then we lit a match and torched it, torched it. Ayy, have you seen the apple orchards where the trees were trapped and tortured? Then we lit a match and torched it, torched it. Say, let it burn, let it burn, let it burn. Let it burn down to the ground, say, let it burn. Let it burn. Let it burn. Blow a granddaddy dandelion, make a wish. Strands of flying, pollinate and drift. Life is shambles, crime, but you fake a twist. Expand your mind and let your candle shine like waistband of a rhyme. Greatest weight can lift. A grand design, tectonic place can shift. Instead of being trapped, controlled, and grown in rows, we the wild seeds are overthrown. Dreams take root deep in the soil, crack in the street. Reach like sequoias, interdependent new ecosystem. Babies and wombs in a fetal position. Soon as it blooms, people will listen. Call it a weed, the best disguise. Still can't be stopped by pesticides and seeds of doubt. We destined to rise, ayy. Have you seen the apple orchard where the trees were trapped and tortured? Now the seeds brought back the forest, forest, ayy. Have you seen the apple orchard where the trees were trapped and tortured? Now the weeds are helping flourish, flourish. Say, let it grow, let it grow, let it grow. Let it grow from the ground up. Say, let it grow. Let it grow. Let it grow. Beware of the dandelion, yeah.